Welcome to Heartline Stories, where surprises lurk around every corner. Today, a boss takes a bold step to uncover what his employee does after hours, and what he finds will leave you stunned. Hidden doors, mysterious creations, and a life-changing revelation await. Stick with us as we reveal how one secret transformed lives. Don't forget to share where you're tuning in from, and hit that like button and subscribe to keep the stories alive. One sunny afternoon, Mr. Carter, the owner of a big toy store, sat in his office scratching his head. His store wasn't doing as well as he had hoped. He had a lot of employees, but there was one that stood out: Benjamin. Benjamin was quiet, polite, and always hardworking. But Mr. Carter noticed something strange. Every time Benjamin finished his shift, he would quickly leave the store, looking nervous. Where was he going? Mr. Carter's curiosity grew like a balloon. So one day, he decided to secretly follow Benjamin. He wanted to see where his employee rushed off to every day. He waited for Benjamin to leave work, grabbed his coat, and followed him from a distance. Benjamin didn't notice he was being followed. He walked down the street, turned a corner, and entered a small, dusty alley. Mr. Carter tiptoed after him, his heart pounding like a drum. "What is he doing here?" Mr. Carter whispered to himself. At the end of the alley, Benjamin stopped in front of an old, broken door. It looked like the door hadn't been opened in years. Benjamin glanced around to make sure no one was watching. Then he opened the door and disappeared inside. Mr. Carter couldn't believe it. Was Benjamin hiding something? Was he doing something secretive or even dangerous? He had to know. Gathering his courage, Mr. Carter sneaked closer to the door. His hands were shaking. Slowly, he pushed it open and stepped inside. What Mr. Carter saw next made his jaw drop. The room was filled with colorful objects, tiny, shiny sculptures, paintings, and toys made from wood. Benjamin was sitting in the middle of it all, painting a wooden bird with bright green feathers. What could this secret place be? And why would Benjamin keep it hidden? Mr. Carter decided to wait quietly in the shadows to learn more. Mr. Carter stood frozen in the shadows, his eyes glued to the magical sight before him. Benjamin painted with so much focus, his hand moved as if it were guided by a gentle breeze. Around him, wooden toys shaped like animals, robots, and even castles were stacked neatly on shelves, each one more beautiful than the last. Benjamin suddenly stood up and walked to a small desk in the corner. He opened a drawer and pulled out a notebook with a bright red cover. Mr. Carter leaned closer, trying to see what Benjamin was writing. Benjamin scribbled furiously, flipping through the pages every few seconds. He then stopped, nodded to himself, and started packing a few of the wooden toys into a box. Mr. Carter's mind was racing. Was Benjamin selling these toys? Were they for a secret gift? What was he writing in the notebook? The old room, the colorful toys, and Benjamin's mysterious actions raised more questions than they answered. Benjamin closed the box, grabbed his coat, and headed for the door. Mr. Carter quickly ducked behind a shelf, holding his breath as Benjamin walked out into the alley. Once Benjamin was gone, Mr. Carter couldn't resist any longer. He walked over to the desk and opened the notebook. Inside were pages and pages of drawings and plans for toy designs. Next to each design, Benjamin had written little notes. Some said, "For the kids at the shelter," while others read, "Make more for next week's market." Mr. Carter's heart softened. Benjamin wasn't hiding something bad. He was secretly making toys for children in need and selling others to raise money. The next day, Mr. Carter waited eagerly for Benjamin to finish his shift. He kept an eye on the young man as he clocked out and hurried out of the store. Mr. Carter quietly followed him again, staying a few steps behind to avoid being seen. This time, Benjamin didn't go to the old alley with the dusty door. Instead, he walked toward the bus stop. He hopped onto a bus carrying the box of toys he had packed the day before. Mr. Carter slipped onto the bus too, sitting a few rows behind Benjamin and pretending to read a newspaper. The bus ride lasted about 20 minutes before Benjamin got off at a stop near a small community center. Mr. Carter followed closely, his curiosity bubbling over. Benjamin entered the center, greeted the receptionist with a friendly wave, and disappeared into a big room filled with children. Through the glass window on the door, Mr. Carter peeked inside. His heart warmed as he watched Benjamin unpack the toys and hand them out to the kids, who squealed with delight. Some of the children hugged Benjamin, and others began playing with the toys right away. Benjamin's face lit up with a smile that Mr. Carter had never seen before. It was clear that this wasn't just a hobby. Benjamin was passionate about bringing joy to these kids. But Mr. Carter wasn't the only one watching. A woman wearing a name badge approached Benjamin with a clipboard. She spoke to him quietly, and Benjamin nodded before signing some papers. Mr. Carter could only catch bits of the conversation, but the woman seemed impressed by Benjamin's work. What was Benjamin agreeing to? Was it a new project, a fundraiser, or something even bigger? Mr. Carter decided he needed to talk to Benjamin soon, but not yet. He wanted to see more of this secret world first. The next evening, Mr. Carter couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. After the store closed, he quietly followed Benjamin again. This time, Benjamin went to a small park on the edge of town. The sun was setting, and the park was bathed in a golden glow. Benjamin carried a different box, and Mr. Carter wondered what was inside. Benjamin walked to a group of kids sitting on a patch of grass. They cheered when they saw him, and he smiled warmly as he set the box down. Mr. Carter watched from behind a tree as Benjamin pulled out small wooden building blocks and handed them to the kids. The children began stacking the blocks into castles and towers, their laughter filling the air. Then something surprising happened. Benjamin sat down with the kids and began telling a story. He used the blocks and a few wooden animal toys to act it out. The children listened intently, their eyes wide with wonder. Mr. Carter couldn't hear the whole story from where he stood, but he could tell it was magical. The kids clapped and cheered when Benjamin finished. As the group packed up to leave, an elderly man approached Benjamin. He was holding a camera and wore a kind smile. The two of them spoke for a while, and the man pointed at the children, the toys, and the setting sun. It seemed like he was taking pictures for something important, but Mr. Carter wasn't sure what. The elderly man with the camera, who introduced himself as Mr. Walter, was speaking animatedly with Benjamin. Mr. Carter watched from his hiding spot, straining to catch fragments of their conversation. While he couldn't hear all of it, he caught words like feature story, community outreach, and inspiring work. Mr. Walter seemed to be interviewing Benjamin, occasionally taking notes in a small leather notebook. Every now and then, he pointed his camera toward the children playing with the toys or Benjamin himself. Benjamin looked slightly shy but also proud, his face lighting up when he spoke about the kids and the toys he made. Intrigued, Mr. Carter decided to take a bold step. He stepped out from behind the tree and approached the two men. Benjamin froze in surprise when he saw his boss walking toward him. His face turned red and he stammered, "Mr. Carter, what are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing, Benjamin," Mr. Carter said, his tone gentle but curious. "I've been following you, not to spy, but because I was curious about where you go after work. And now I see this." He gestured toward the children laughing and playing with the wooden toys. Benjamin looked down, nervously twisting his fingers. "I didn't want anyone to know," he admitted quietly. "I make these toys and bring them to kids who don't have much. It's just something I enjoy doing." "Enjoy?" Mr. Walter chimed in with a smile. "It's more than that, Benjamin. What you're doing is remarkable. You're bringing happiness to these children and teaching them creativity. That's why I'm writing a feature story about you for the local paper." Benjamin's eyes widened. "A feature story? Oh no, I don't think I'm ready for something like that." Mr. Carter placed a reassuring hand on Benjamin's shoulder. "I think you should embrace it, Benjamin. What you're doing is extraordinary and people deserve to know about it. In fact," he added with a twinkle in his eye, "I might even have an idea to take this to the next level." Benjamin looked up at Mr. Carter, a mix of hope and hesitation in his expression. Mr. Walter raised an eyebrow, intrigued by what Mr. Carter might propose. Mr. Carter straightened up, the wheels in his mind turning as he began to speak. "Benjamin," he said, his voice steady and filled with a newfound admiration, "I think the world could use more of this. What if we partnered together? We could expand what you're doing, reach more children, and make an even bigger difference." Benjamin blinked in surprise. "Partner? How would that even work?" he asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Well," Mr. Carter continued, "our toy store has resources, materials, tools, and a space to work. We could create a special line of toys inspired by your designs. For every toy sold, we could donate another to children in need. It would combine your passion with the store's ability to reach a wider audience." Benjamin stared at Mr. Carter, his emotions flickering between excitement and nervousness. "That sounds amazing," he admitted, "but it also sounds huge. I don't know if I could handle something like that." "You wouldn't have to do it alone," Mr. Carter assured him. "We'd work together. And who knows, maybe Mr. Walter here could feature the project in his article, helping us get the word out." Mr. Walter, who had been quietly listening, gave a hearty nod. "I love the idea. Stories like this inspire people, and I'd be thrilled to highlight how your work is growing to help even more kids." Benjamin still looked hesitant, but Mr. Carter could see a spark of excitement in his eyes. Before Benjamin could respond, a little girl ran up to them, clutching one of the wooden toys Benjamin had given her. She looked up at Benjamin with a big smile and said, "Thank you for my new friend. I love him so much." Benjamin crouched down to her level, his face softening. "You're welcome," he said gently. "Take good care of him." As the girl skipped away, Benjamin stood up and looked at Mr. Carter. "Okay," he said with determination. "Let's try it. Let's see if we can make this work." Mr. Carter smiled, already imagining the possibilities. "Great. Let's meet tomorrow to start planning. I have a feeling this is just the beginning of something incredible." The next day, Benjamin arrived at the toy store earlier than usual, a mix of excitement and nerves bubbling inside him. Mr. Carter greeted him with a wide smile and a stack of papers filled with ideas. Together, they sat down at a table in the back of the store, brainstorming how to turn Benjamin's passion into a larger project. "We can call it Toys of Joy," Mr. Carter suggested. "It's simple, catchy, and it captures what you're doing, bringing happiness to kids." Benjamin nodded thoughtfully. "I like it. But what about the designs? I can't make enough toys by myself. Not at this scale." "That's where the store comes in," Mr. Carter replied. We have staff, tools, and suppliers who can help. You can focus on the designs and maybe even teach others how to make them. It'll be your vision, but with extra hands to bring it to life. Benjamin smiled, but he still looked a little uncertain. I've never led something like this before. What if it doesn't work? Mr. Carter patted Benjamin on the shoulder. We'll face challenges, sure, but you're already doing something amazing. This is just a chance to amplify it. And don't forget, you're not alone in this. Just as they started mapping out their plans, a knock came at the store's back door. Mr. Carter opened it to find Mr. Walter, the reporter, holding a box of fresh donuts and grinning. I thought I'd bring some fuel for your brainstorming session, he said, stepping inside. Mr. Walter joined the discussion, offering insights on how they could spread the word about Toys of Joy. He suggested hosting an event at the community center to introduce the project to the public and involve local families. Benjamin listened intently, his confidence slowly building as the ideas flowed. Together, the trio worked out a plan. They would start with a special collection of toys to be launched at the event, where kids could come and play, parents could learn about the mission, and anyone interested could donate or volunteer to help. As the day went on, Benjamin's excitement grew. He began sketching new toy designs right there at the table, his pencil flying across the pages. Mr. Carter and Mr. Walter watched with admiration, already imagining the impact Toys of Joy could have. But little did they know, unexpected challenges were waiting around the corner. Challenges that would test their determination and their teamwork. Benjamin and Mr. Carter worked tirelessly over the following weeks to bring Toys of Joy to life. They transformed part of the toy store into a workshop where Benjamin could create new designs with the help of staff volunteers. Together, they crafted beautiful toys inspired by Benjamin's original creations, each one made with care and creativity. The community center hosted the launch event, which turned out to be a spectacular success. Families from all over town came to see the toys, play with them, and hear Benjamin's story. The children laughed and giggled as they built castles and played with wooden animals, while parents expressed their admiration for the mission behind the toys. Mr. Walter's article, featuring Benjamin's journey and the partnership with the toy store, was published in the local newspaper. It caught the attention of readers far beyond their small town. Donations poured in, and orders for the special toy lines skyrocketed. Benjamin's work was reaching more children than he had ever dreamed. With the support of his boss, his co-workers, and the community, Benjamin's life transformed in ways he never expected. His once secret passion for creating toys became the heart of a project that brought joy to countless children and families. And through it all, Benjamin learned that sometimes sharing your dreams can lead to even bigger ones. As for Mr. Carter, he gained something more valuable than profits. He saw firsthand how kindness and creativity could bring people together and create lasting impact, a lesson he carried with him forever. The story of Toys of Joy became more than just a tale of toys. It became a story of hope, teamwork, and the power of one person's dream to change the world.